Oh, that's what you're doing here.
Uh-huh. So you admit you're a smart lawyer.
I'll sort of let you know when I get back from Houston.
Which brings us back to the first question. Why are you going to Houston? You lied to me, didn't you?
When?
When you were asking me all those questions? You said you were looking for my father's car. Maybe I took it, or maybe I knew somebody who had. None of that was the truth, was it?
It was all the truth. It wasn't the whole truth.
I told you that my father's last command, before he got to be president of American Dynatronics, was in Houston. It's not his car you're after, is it? It's him. Why? What are you trying to prove? You know, I get the feeling you're out to destroy him.
You know, you lied to me, too. You told me you hated your father.
Let me prove it. How can I help you?
I'm sorry, I can't accept that. He may represent everything you're in protest against. The war, the military-industrial establishment, all of it. But he's still your father.
He's exactly what I said he is. I can't think of anything in the world bad enough to wish on him.
Oh, I can.
What?
Me. If I'm right about him.
Tell me what you suspect. Maybe I can save you a trip.
All right. Sit down. Two nights ago, you remember the fog that night? A woman named Maggie Lewis was driving along the Ocean Road. And she smashed into the rear end of a parked car. She was leaving a note with her name and address on it when she saw someone in the car. A woman, a blonde, and apparently dead. Now, Maggie was once a very special friend. She came to me in a panic, afraid that somehow she had killed the woman in that other car. But when we got back to the scene, the car and the woman in it were gone. I told Maggie she must have made a mistake. The woman must have recovered and driven away. In any case, Maggie did all she could by leaving her name and address. Maggie was sure the blonde had been dead. Now, she was afraid that someone had killed her before Maggie hit the car. I told her she was imagining things, but she was scared. She asked me not to leave her alone that night, and I didn't take it seriously. I did leave her alone. Later that night, Maggie Lewis was killed. Police say she drove her car off a high cliff, that it was suicide. They say she'd been despondent because her husband had left her for another woman.
Was that true?
Yeah. But I don't believe that suicide thing.
And you blame yourself for what happened?
Too many things keep turning up to support my theory.
What is your theory?
That the blonde woman actually was murdered. That Maggie did see her in the killer's car, that she was the only witness who could connect the two, and that the killer reached her, killed her before she could talk.
So what's all that got to do with my father?
Today, your father reported a stolen car, missing 4 days. Answers the description of the car Maggie hit.
A lot of cars would. I mean, even if it was his car, if it were stolen...
I questioned him. He assumed I was from the police. I got the impression you might have taken the car. I questioned you, and you told me a thing or two about the general, such as when he was stationed in Houston 4 years ago, he had a mistress, a blonde.
That's reaching pretty far. I told you, none of us even knew her name.
Today, the body of a young woman, very blonde, name of Ellen Stevens, was washed ashore at Santa Rita Beach. Turns out she owned a boat, which she kept across the street from where Maggie Lewis hit that car. The one that answers the description of your father's car.
That doesn't...
And Ellen Stevens came to Los Angeles 4 years ago. from Houston, Texas.
She's the one? The one my father was keeping back there?
I can't say for sure. That's why I'm going down there. To find out one way or the other.
Oh, she is the one. And if she was in my father's car that night, then... Oh, he really had the motive, didn't he?
He's gonna marry a woman with $17 million. I'd say that's motive enough for getting rid of an obsolete mistress who may cause trouble.
Do you realize what you'll have done if you're right?
Yes, and I'm sorry. But only because he's your father.
And that's not what I mean. He is so powerful, he's invulnerable. And if you accuse him, you're gonna be in more danger than he is. Will you let me stay here tonight?
After what I've just told you about Maggie? How can I refuse?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Do I smell coffee?
Yeah. Why don't you go back to bed? It's early yet. I gotta be leaving and catch that plane.
Okay. I'll maybe take a swim before I leave.
Sure. The house is yours.
Neil? If you talk to my mother, be gentle.
I will be. And, I hope I'm wrong about your father.
So do I, for your sake, not for his.
Well, keep the faith.
Mr. Jurgens, Mr. Hamlin, you're to report back to Central Security. Mr. Nichols, Mr. Darrell, you're to go right in.
Thank you for coming, Mr. Nichols. I'm General Sternwood. I wanted you present for this. Your reputation in law has always been above reproach.
Thank you, sir, but that's not quite accurate. I've been reproached quite frequently and often justly.
You may have been unconventional, sir, but never, I'm sure, unethical, which doesn't seem to be true of your associate here.
Now, just a minute. I see there's a record being taken of the minutes of the meeting. Are you accusing me of some unethical practice, General? If so, would you identify it for the record?
We will most certainly get to it, young man.
Of course, all in good time. But first, I'd like to say hello to some distinguished colleagues. Mr. Ralph Semple, Mr. Edwin Carlisle, and Mr. Howard Marks.
My attorneys.
Congratulations. Well, Ralph, how's the game? You still in the 80s?
In and out. When do you want another beating?
Well, Saturday sound too masochistic?
You've got it.
Ed?
Walt, I swear it, I'll return the book if it takes another 2 years.
I never lost faith. Well, Howard, how's that big grandson?
9 pounds, 7 ounces, 22 inches long.
Well, that's a lot of immortality. Of course, you all know my partner, Neil Darrow.
Ralph, Ed, how are you? Howard, congratulations. Are you here, representing American Dynatronics or General Sternwood personally?
Neither, actually. We're here as mutual friends. There's really no official basis for this meeting.
At the same time, I don't intend to treat this as a social event.
I gather that. You've done some pretty heavy casting. Detective Lieutenant Hewitt, representing the police.
Mr. Darrow, Mr. Nichols.
Oh, yes. Brother Bartholomew. Fancy meeting you here. Long way from the commune, isn't it? Nice work.
I don't think you're in a position to judge.
Just what position do you think he's in, General?
I'm considering charges against him which could result in his disbarment.
What kind of charges?
Violation of ethics, impersonating a police officer, trespass, fraud, invasion of privacy, obtaining information under false representation.
All that.
For openers, young man. But before I take any action, I am here suggesting in the presence of witnesses that you cease and desist in any inquiry or investigation into the private life of me or my family.
Or what, General? You'll have me shot?
Mr. Darrow, the general has legitimate cause for complaint. According to him, you posed as a police officer to gain admittance here.
He's mistaken.
To elicit certain personal and private information about the General's family, which could be damaging to him if made public. Now, you represented yourself as taking over the investigation from me.
Wrong again. I merely said I was getting into the case, which I was and am. Sorry if you got the wrong impression, General.
Unacceptable. I don't recognize the distinction between a lie spoken and one implied. You used a trick to invade my privacy, and you continued that invasion when you went to my daughter.
General, when I went to that commune, I didn't expect to find your daughter alive. Now, I couldn't very well tell you that at the time, now could I?
What did you expect to find, young man? My car with my daughter dead inside it?
Oh, you know about that.
Lieutenant Hewitt's been filling me in on your fantasies.
Is that what they are?
That's right.
You told me your daughter's been known to pass out dead to the world in your car. Well, a woman described as looking very much like your daughter was discovered dead to the world, or just plain dead, in a car described as looking like yours. Now, when I get that many coincidences, General, I'm sorry, but I've got to cancel some of them out.
How many reputations are you going to cancel out? How many mistakes are you going to have to make, young man, before you admit you're wrong?
I was wrong about your daughter being dead, and I'm glad. But that only cancels out one coincidence.
Mr. Nichols, I am amazed that you would permit the reputation of your firm to be imperiled by such an obviously irresponsible young man.
It's not my firm, General. Mr. Darrell is an equal partner. And irresponsibility is not the special province of the young. I think it's irresponsible to hit back with threats of disbarment for the minor injury you may have been done.
You approve of his actions?
Well, he may or may not deserve a reprimand, but you've brought up the heavy artillery. Now, I'm no tactician, General, but is it wise to use shot and shell where a kick in the pants will do?
I will not make light of this.
Nor have you, sir. Your protest is strongly registered. Too much, I think, and too soon. Overkill, isn't that the military term?
Mr. Nichols, I thought you, at least, would go by the book.
I'll tell you something about the book. I'm sure my friends here will agree. Don't be too quick to throw it at someone. The law is like a very naughty lady. The more you understand her character, the more you avoid her embrace.
Lieutenant, I don't seem to make my point with Mr. Darrell or with his bearded friend, so let me make this one with you. I have held you indirectly responsible for turning Mr. Darrell loose on me. Now I'm going to hold you directly responsible for keeping him away from me and from my family. If you cannot put a leash and a muzzle on him, then be prepared to face a review board while Mr. Darrell faces an ethics committee. This meeting is over.
Look, Neil, I don't like his ultimatums any more than you do. But he can back them up. He's got the power.
Then what's he afraid of?
Publicity. He can't afford to have all this stuff coming out now, just before the wedding.
What stuff?
The family, the dirty linen. His daughter's a drug dropout, a peace freak. His ex-wife's an alcoholic.
And his ex-mistress is dead.
Who says ex-mistress? Now, you prove that.
Prove it. That's why I'm going to Houston. Publicity. I'll give him publicity. I'll prove that Ellen Stevens was his mistress, that it was his car Maggie hit, and that he killed them both.
I don't think you're gonna do that. I think you'll be very much smarter and do what the general said. Get out of his life.
You know, I was never very good at taking orders, and when I did, it was from the Navy.
Fine. So you want to pin a double murder on a man just because you don't like his branch of the service. Well, drop it, Neil, or I'll personally put you away for interference with the police.
Interference? You're not even working on it. You're calling Maggie's death a suicide and Ellen Stevens an accident.
Not anymore.
What's happened?
Well, we followed your suggestion about the autopsy. Turns out the water in Ellen Stevens' lungs.
It wasn't salt water.
That's right.
And you still say I'm interfering?
I still say leave the investigation to the police. We're into it, Neil. Do not follow up on your own.
Just leave it to you and the general.
You seem determined to get hurt.
Paul, I was in love with Maggie once.
You never told me that.
I never told her either. Mrs. Sternwood, if you could remember anything, anything at all.
But I do remember anything. Anything at all. You are interested in obtaining information concerning a person who you said was drowned in Houston.
Who lived in Houston, was drowned in Los Angeles. Ellen Stevens. That doesn't ring a bell, does it?
Ellen Stevens. Stevens Ellen. No, that's not a name to ring any bell. Dead, you say? In California? Dead in her 20s. What a sad, sad state. The state of California.
Mrs. Sternwood, before the divorce, your husband was seeing another woman. Could that woman have been Ellen Stevens?
I have no idea. I never knew her name. All I knew was my husband had somebody here and he had somebody there in the state of California. Dead, you say? But not perhaps by any human hand.
What do you mean?
You can blame it all on the state of California, the Death Valley state. And those hot desert winds, those Santa Anas. Devil winds. That's what the Indians called them. They made them crazy, you know. They made them kill each other and themselves. Much like many modern marriages do.
Please, try to remember. She had a decorating shop right here in Houston. She moved to Los Angeles about the same time General Sternwood retired from the Army. About the same time he moved you and Linda to Los Angeles.
Linda. Is she all right? She is in danger there. In that state. Please, take care of her. But you don't blame the state of California, do you? What is it that you blame? The state of matrimony? I was a good wife to him, an army wife, and he knew it. That's why he will never marry her or anybody else. Why are you looking at me like that?
You don't know, do you?
What? Tell me.
About his plans to marry again.
Tell me, who is she?
Her name is Frances Ann Buford.
Who? No. No, there's got to be some mistake. He doesn't even know her.
Apparently he does.
Frances Ann. What? Oh, no. It's insane. She isn't that little sort of backstreet nobody that he was having before the divorce. She is a somebody.
Yes?
Before, when I told you he would never marry again, I really did think he would, but I expected him to marry that sordid little nobody. No. This is an entirely different woman. And she, whoever she was, she expected it too, and that's what's so delicious.
What makes you think she suspected it too?
He boasted, you know. He told me once that he shared everything with that woman. He had no secrets from her. I wonder how he told her she was through. I wonder what sort of a scene that was when it was her turn to be gotten rid of. I wonder how he did it.
I can imagine.
Ellen Stevens. Well, as far as I know, I've never even heard the name.
I'm sorry, General Thorne. I was under the impression that Miss Stevens was acquainted with the commanding officer here.
Well, at the time you mentioned 4 years ago, that wouldn't have been me. That'd been General Sternwood.
Oh. Then it was General Sternwood who knew her.
I couldn't say. What are you trying to establish?
Just the identity of her financial backer. You see, she left no will, but she did leave a half interest in a rather lucrative business.
You implying that this backer, as you call him, could have been General Sternwood?
Oh, no, sir, I don't know. I've been asking the question of people she knew.
Well, I suggest you stop asking.
Why, sir?
Might prove a needless embarrassment to a very fine gentleman.
I take it you know him personally.
Since Korea. I was a chicken colonel then. Were you in the Army?
No, sir. I was a chicken sailor.
Well, let me tell you, he is the best there is. His reputation as an officer is brilliant. His reputation now in industry is impeccable.
And, of course, there's still nothing to connect him with Ellen Stevens. Is there?
Well, I was fairly certain that he was seeing someone at that time. He was far too fine a gentleman to talk about it. Whoever she was, if it was this Ellen Stevens, she would have been no ordinary woman. Nothing cheap about her. Not for him.
Yeah, of course. Oh, I understand he's marrying again. Also nothing cheap.
That's another reason I wouldn't ask too many questions that might embarrass him. There's a great many soldiers down here, former soldiers, who would not take it very kindly if they thought you were making trouble for George Quinton Stern.
Hello.
Hey, that Mr. Darrell there?
Yeah.
Well, howdy, Neil. Here tell you've been asking all over town last couple days about a little old gal named Ellen Stevens. How bad you really want to know that stuff?
Bad enough to want to pay for it. Who is this?
I'm the boy who can tell you. I can tell you things about that unnatural blonde that you can't hear from nobody else. Only not where nobody else can hear.
Well, tell me where.
You know a place called the Old Trapper's Lodge out by the edge of town?
I can find it.
Well, then come on over and I'll see you.
Wait a minute. Where? What room?
Just come on over. I'll be out front. And say, you got any bourbon?
I'll get a bottle on the way over.
Well, get a big one. It's a dry night. Drive careful now.
Howdy, Neil. Come on over. Spraddle out and set a spell. Awful hot, ain't it?
Yeah. You the man who ordered the bourbon?
Oh, yeah. I don't aim to hog it. This here's for share. I even brought the crockery.
Well, thanks, but bourbon's not my drink.
Oh, it's gotta be. I don't drink alone. And if I don't drink, I don't talk.
Maybe just a short one.
Hey, there's an ice machine down the hall there. Why don't you take the bag and fill it up, huh? I'll wrestle with this here cork.
Good party.
Yeah, sit down, cool your saddle, Neil. Yeah, one for you, one for me. First today. That's real nice. Right, Neil?
Right. Sorry, I don't know your name.
Oh, hey, it's Bill. Billy Joe Stillman, that's who. Right, Neil?
About Ellen Stevens?
Yeah, how about that Ellen Stevens? Tell me, what do you make of that woman?
What do I make of her?
Yeah, I mean, you know, what kind of female do you suppose she is?
That's what you're here to tell me, remember?
Sure. Sure it is. Ellen Stevens. Ooh, what a gal. You know, I often wonder whatever happened to her.
Oh, Billy. I mean, if you got me out here to pump me, you could at least ply me with your own liquor.
Now, don't get proddy, Neil. I'm gonna tell you some things that you won't believe.
You're doing it now.
But first, we gotta loosen up, you know? Unlax. First today. Any minute now, Neil, baby. Any minute, you ought to be feeling no pain. But first, we gotta break the ice. Rise, Bill!
What's this all about, mister? Who's the cowboy?
That's what I want to know. Eddie Gerard, huh? Said his name was Stillman. Billy Joe Stillman.
He used that name, and Cowboy Johnson, and a few others, plus a lot of numbers. Spent most of his life in prison. 3 arrests on suspicion of murder, 1 conviction. He's a known gun for hire, a hitman from Amarillo. Came to Houston yesterday.
From Amarillo?
He could have been hired from anywhere. Took orders by telephone. Somebody put a contract out on you, Mr. Darrell. Any idea who or why?
I can't imagine. I don't have an enemy in the world.
I'm improving. Didn't mess up your bed this time. What's with the arm?
I'm gonna start charging you rent.
Then start suing me for it. Which reminds me, you know that boyfriend of mine who needs a lawyer?
Not
Look,
now,
he's
Linda.
still waiting to hear
Come
from
on,
me.
help me off with this. I'll try to see him tomorrow.
About that arm. Souvenir of Houston.
How'd you guess?
What happened?
I broke my leg.
Your leg. Should I ask then why your arm is in a sling?
How could I walk with my leg in a sling?
Shouldn't ask. Neil, you know what I came here for. What did you find out about my father and his blonde bundle on the side?
There are people in those parts who think he had one.
But I told you that for a fact. Did you talk to my mother?
Mm-hmm. She was sure of it.
So sure of it, she tried to kill herself.
When was that?
4 years ago, not far from here, she tried to drown herself. And my father pulled her out. She never thanked him for it.
And you never forgave him?
When he gets married, they set the date, you know, next Sunday in Carmel. I'm gonna be there. And when the man says, can anyone here show cause why these two should not be joined together, I'm gonna stand up and scream, ask my mother.
Linda, do you really want to stop that marriage?
It's him I want to stop.
Ellen Stevens could have stopped him. So could Maggie Lewis. Maybe they still can.
How?
If we can prove he killed them, and I think we can. Together.
And you didn't find the proof in Houston.
The proof isn't there, Linda. It's here, right here. Locked up somewhere in your head.
You're scaring
Now
me.
listen. Ellen Stevens could have stopped your father. Now maybe you were right about him. Maybe he did get that job at Dynatronics by doing favors in the Army. You know, he told your mother he never kept a secret from Ellen. If so, she could have nailed him cold. Now, we could prove he killed her and Maggie Lewis if we could find that car of his.
I don't know where it is.
I think you do. If you think hard enough. You know the way his mind works. Try to think that way. If he wanted to get rid of a car, where would he put it? Now think! Where would it be?
Well, I really don't know. I'd like to help you, Neil, but maybe we've just been both thinking too much about death. Trying too hard to hate. Goodbye, Neil.
Can I give you a lift?
No thanks. I'm on wheels now. See? Just another sellout.
Well, is it there?
You set me up. You followed me.
Yes? Is it there?
Why don't you go down and see for yourself?
Look, Linda, if I have to send a diver down there, it's going to take a lot longer, but I'll find it. You know I will.
It's there. We really got him, didn't we? We tracked him down and we finished him off. You can be proud of yourself. So can I. You thought I hated him, didn't you?
No.
So did I. Isn't it a laugh? I don't know how wrong two people could be.
What's happened? Did they get Sternwood?
That's what you wanted, isn't it?
What I wanted?
Sure. You had to dump a load of guilt on someone, and you chose him and made it work.
Now, wait a-
Self-fulfilling prophecy. How much do you think Mrs. Sternwood paid the late Billy Stillman to knock you off?
Who?
Only $600.
Mrs. Sternwood.
That's right. I told you we were working with the Houston police. They took it from her angle, and she made a full confession. Killed Ellen Stevens and Maggie Lewis, too. She flew up here, took the car out of the garage. Everything else went just about the way you said. Just one small difference. General Sternwood didn't have a damn thing to do with it.
They all fit together so perfectly. Because you made it fit, Neil. Ah, come on, we all make mistakes. Mrs. Sternwood made one. She didn't know the general had other plans, so she got the wrong woman. Yeah. And I got the wrong man. Yeah. Yeah, but then, if you'd followed our advice and kept out of it, she'd have gotten away with murder. Twice.
Neil, you've hurt yourself as much as anyone. But if the law were to punish us for the crimes we commit on ourselves, I'm afraid very few of us would escape the gallows.
Yeah, you're right, Neil. Somebody should tell her. Her father didn't do it. Her mother did. You want me to? No. I'll tell her. Brian, look, would you take my car back? I want to go back with her. Of course.
How are you doing? You about through now? How's it coming?
Mrs. Hazelwood, I'm Lieutenant Hewitt, homicide. I'm sorry to trouble you at a time like this, but there are a few questions that have to be asked.
He was like that when I came home from my meeting. But that's all I know.
Maybe we should go over there.
Oh, Lieutenant, this is my daughter, Lauren.
Miss Hazelwood.
Give me a hand with it.
Now, tell me exactly what happened. You said you were at a meeting.
Oh, I belong to a club. It's an ecology group. We meet every Tuesday. That's where I was.
Do you remember when you got home?
About 11.
Yes, go on.
When I opened the front door, I found him lying there. And the candlestick holder. I called an ambulance. And I called the police.
Was there anybody else in the house?
Lauren.
What did she say?
Nothing. I haven't been able to get her to say one single word.
Miss Hazelwood, can you tell us what happened?
Well, someone broke in. I don't know what else there is to think.
Lauren? Is that what happened? Did somebody break in?
No.
What?
It was me. Baby, no. I killed him. You don't know what you're saying. You can't take that seriously. Look at her.
I won't ask any more questions, Mrs. Hazelwood. I could tell her what her rights are, but at this point, I doubt she'd really understand. Better call an attorney, a good criminal lawyer. Now.
I'm Walter Nichols, Lauren. I'm an attorney. And this is my associate, Brian Darrell. Your mother retained us to represent you.
Please sit down.
Lauren, whatever you tell us is privileged and confidential. You're absolutely free to say anything you want to us. You understand that?
Thought you might like some coffee.
See, we're here to help you in any way that we can. But in order to do that, why, we're going to need your trust and your cooperation. Suppose we start by you telling us what happened tonight.
I killed my father.
How did you kill him?
I hit him with a candlestick.
Why did you kill him?
I don't know.
Lauren, we're pledged to defend you, no matter what you tell us. So the best thing for you and for us is for you to tell us the truth.
Well, how can I tell you what I don't know, what I don't remember?
Are you trying to tell us you're blacked out? Well, in that case, you wouldn't even remember the act of striking him, would you?
Well, I did. I hit him and he fell.
All right, Lauren. We'll leave you for the time being. Now, if the district attorney asks you any questions, why don't answer them. From now on, the only people you're allowed to talk to are doctors and psychiatrists. And then only after they've been cleared by Mr. Darrow or me, Mr.
Tell me about your mother, Lauren. You know, anything that comes to your mind.
She's pretty.
What sort of a person is she?
Organized, you know, efficient. She always gets everything done and has lots of time left over.
I guess I'll never be that way.
Do you love her? Well, do you?
Yes.
Same goes for your father. Did you love him?
He was a beautiful man.
In what way?
In every way.
Can you be more specific?
He made me feel secure. You know, when I'd hear the other kids complaining, you know, knocking their parents, I'd say to myself, God gave me a special blessing. My daddy understood me, Doctor. He cared. There was nothing in the world he wouldn't have done for me.
What didn't you like about him?
Nothing.
You know, it's possible to love someone very much and still have ambivalent feelings of anger or resentment.
I was not mad at my daddy, if that's what you mean.
You killed him, Lauren. If you love someone and you're not angry or frightened, you don't take their life away. I'm stumped, completely baffled. In all the years I've practiced, I don't believe I've ever encountered anything quite like it. She admits killing her father. She makes a full legal confession. And yet, after spending a solid week with her, night and day, I can't get her to tell me why.
What's the medical picture, Doc?
Well, her EEG is beautiful. Central nervous system functioning normally.
No possible organic cause for a blackout?
Doesn't have anything to do with blacking out, Walter. She admits that she remembers everything before and after, including the act itself. It's just that when you begin to zero in on that motive that she begins to tune you out. Completely. I mean, as though you weren't even there. As far as she's concerned, her father was the greatest living thing that ever walked the face of this earth.
Maybe she's trying to sell us something.
Well, that's what's so frustrating about this. She really did love him. I've given her half a dozen tests or more. That's the one thing that I'm absolutely certain of. I can't even paint a picture of a psychopath for you. Never mind a murderer.
I was kind of hoping we could go in with an insanity plea.
Not a chance. You'd never be able to prove diminished capacity. I mean, she's aware of what she did. And she's aware that it was terribly wrong. I say that, of course, because that's what she said. I spend half the time wondering whether or not she really did kill him. I hate to be so negative about it, but unless you can come up with a motive, I don't know how you're going to defend her.
Her motive for killing or her motive for lying?
I don't have the answer to that. I don't think anybody ever will.
Sweetheart, look at me. Now, these gentlemen can't help you. There is nothing they can do unless you at least try to cooperate.
On the basis of all psychiatric reports, there's no way that we can go into that courtroom and plead you not guilty by reason of insanity. Do you understand the full implication of that?
Answer him.
Yes, Mother, I understand. But I never really claimed to be crazy, did I?
Without an insanity plea, how much chance do you think you'll have? Your fingerprints are all over the object that inflicted the fatal blow. The arresting officer heard a spontaneous exclamation of guilt. Then even after you were advised of your rights at headquarters, you made a voluntary confession.
I did kill him.
That's not enough, Lauren. We want to know why.
I'd tell you if I could.
You've confessed to murder. The charge will be first degree, life in prison, or even possible sentence of death. Now, if you can't confide in us, how do you expect us to help you?
Well, I can't answer what I don't remember.
But you remember hitting him
Yes,
on the left side of the head.
yes,
You saw him fall to the floor,
yes.
and you knew that you'd killed him.
But I didn't know why.
Lauren, I want the truth. Now, what happened in that living room?
Well, how do you think I feel not knowing? I loved my father. I loved him more than anyone.
So with nothing but the emotion of love, you came downstairs, picked up a candlestick, and smashed it against the left side of his skull. Now, you expect me to believe that? You expect anybody to believe that? It doesn't sound logical to you, does it? All right, Lauren. That's enough for now. Try to get some rest. We'll talk tomorrow.
I'll call the matron.
Don't worry, sweetheart. We're not going to let anything happen. I'm sorry. Forgive me. It's just that it all seems so hopeless.
Well, it isn't good, Mrs. Hazel, but it certainly isn't hopeless. We won't put Lauren on the stand, and the burden of proof is on the district attorney. And he has one very big weakness. There's no motive, absolutely none. So what hurts us hurts the prosecution even more. And we can make the jury more than a little skeptical about that confession.
How?
By making sure that the jury knows she was in shock when you came home and found her. What a person says in shock doesn't always coincide with reality.
I see. Well, I won't keep you any longer.
Oh, we're in no hurry, Mrs. Hazelwood. If there's anything about the case you'd like to discuss, this would be a good time.
It's all so unreal. It's like in one insane moment, my whole family was taken away from me. That doesn't leave a person too rational, Mr. Nichols. I'm afraid any discussion with me wouldn't make very much sense. As long as I know Lauren is being taken care of, that's all I care about. And if I haven't told you yet, I am deeply grateful.
Oh, Mrs. Hazelwood, are you sure there's nothing that you can think of about that night that might help us?
I don't understand.
Well, in emotional situations like this, people naturally get confused and forget to mention details. It could be very important for us to know. Can you recall anything at all?
Lauren may not realize that her future is at stake, Mr. Nichols, but I do. If I knew anything that might help, you would have heard it long before this.
You know, something about that lady rubs me the wrong way.
Oh, what?
Gut reaction. I'd like to know more about her. Let's check her out.
Lieutenant, would you describe the defendant's emotional condition when you arrived at the Hazelwood residence?
Well, she looked like she was in a trance. I guess it was probably shock.
Did she say anything before you took her into custody?
Yes, sir.
Voluntarily or as a result of questions from you?
Voluntarily. A spontaneous exclamation. She said, "It was me. I killed him."
Did you inform the defendant of her right to remain silent at that time?
No, later at headquarters.
And after you reminded her of her rights, would you kindly tell the court what she told you?
She said she killed her father.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Cross-examine.
Lieutenant, do you think Miss Hazelwood understood what you said to her?
Yes, I think so.
But didn't you just say that she acted as if she were in shock?
Yes.
No more questions.
The witness is excused.
We now call Mrs. Norma Hazelwood. When you left the house that evening, where exactly was your husband?
In the living room, watching television.
And your daughter, where was she?
Upstairs, studying, I believe. I'm not certain.
But you are certain she was in the house?
Yes.
All right, Mrs. Hazelwood. Could you tell us what time you returned?
About 11 o'clock.
Please tell the court what you saw when you entered the house.
I saw my husband lying on the floor in the living room.
Was there anything beside him?
Yes. A brass candlestick.
What did you do?
Went to him. I went to Martin and tried to take his pulse. But I couldn't feel it, and I couldn't hear his heart.
Where was your daughter?
Sitting on the sofa in the living room.
Did you ask her what happened?
She couldn't talk.
Couldn't talk. I'm afraid that's an opinion, Mrs. Hazelwood, because she did speak later, didn't she? After Lieutenant Hewitt arrived. I'm waiting for your answer, Mrs. Hazelwood.
Yes, she spoke.
She admitted having killed her father, didn't she? Didn't she, Mrs. Hazelwood?
Yes.
Your witness?
You just testified that on the night your husband died, you returned home about 11 o'clock. Now, is that an approximate time or an accurate time?
It was 11. I glanced at my watch as I opened the front door.
And where were you prior to your return?
I went to a movie.
You went to a movie. But isn't it true that you told Lieutenant Hewitt that you were at an ecology meeting?
Well, that was the first thing that came to my mind. I only told him that because it's what I told my husband and daughter.
Oh, I see. Excuse me, I'm just wondering, Mrs. Hazelwood, why you would try to deceive the members of your own family.
Well, my husband and I had been drifting apart for quite some time. We didn't really live together as man and wife for at least a couple of years. Sometimes when the tension got too bad, I just had to get out of the house. I used the ecology club as an excuse. Later, I realized that I should have told Lieutenant Hewitt the truth.
In case he should decide to check.
So when I talked to the district attorney, I admitted not being totally honest and told him where I had actually been.
I think what you really mean, Mrs. Hazelwood, is that you told him another lie.
I object, Your Honor. Counsel is putting words in the mouth of the witness.
Sustain.
According to the transcript of the district attorney's interrogation, you told him you went to the Forest Park Theater and saw a picture entitled The Ordination.
I did.
How long a drive is it from your house to the theater?
About 10 minutes.
And what time did you get there?
Oh, 8:45.
According to the theater management, the 8:50 show, which is presumably the one you attended, is over at 10:48. Did you go straight home?
Yes.
A drive of 10 minutes, which would account for your arrival at your home at 11 o'clock.
That's right.
What would you say, Mrs. Hazelwood, if I were to tell you that the manager of the Forest Park Theater told me that on the night your husband died, someone threw a smoke bomb into the lobby.
I object.
The picture had to be stopped,
Objection.
and a good 10 minutes elapsed before the picture could be resumed.
Your Honor, I object. That is not proper cross-examination. If defense has a witness who can come in here and state a thing like that, let him be brought in. But I cannot tolerate this kind of fishing expedition with my witness.
I sustain your objection, Mr. Wahlberg. Let's have no more of that, Mr. Darrell.
I apologize, Your Honor. Mrs. Hazelwood, are you aware of the penalties for perjury?
Yes.
I hope you're sure, because they're very severe. And if you haven't been telling the truth, I recommend that you start telling it now. Now, Mrs. Hazelwood, I'm going to give you a chance to clear yourself. I'm going to ask you to tell this court where you really were that night.
Please answer the question.
I didn't go to the movies. But I didn't lie about where I was for any reason having to do with this trial.
Well, why did you lie?
Because I was trying to protect someone.
A man?
Yes.
You were with a man. Please tell us his name.
Just a minute, please. Your Honor, I feel compelled to let Mrs. Hazelwood know that she doesn't have to answer that question on the grounds that it could be self-incriminating.
Mrs. Hazelwood, the deputy district attorney is correct. You're under no obligation to answer Mr. Darrell's last question.
Now, Mrs. Hazelwood, did your husband know about this other relationship?
That's an assumption. No relationship has been mentioned or established.
Sustained. Please get off this line of questioning, Mr. Darrell.
Yes, Your Honor. All right, Mrs. Hazelwood, I'll put it this way. Were you and your husband happily married?
Not exactly.
Did you ever discuss the possibility of a divorce?
My husband was totally against divorce. He thought it would be bad for Lauren.
But you wanted one, didn't you?
Yes.
Thank you, Mrs. Hazelwood. Your Honor, I'd like to request a brief recess.
Have you completed your cross-examination, Mr. Darrell?
For the moment, but I'd like to reserve the right to recall the witness.
Well, it's now 10 till 5. We'll resume on Monday. Court is adjourned till 10 o'clock Monday morning.
I'm sorry, Lauren, but there's a very good reason for all this.
Let's get going. We got our work cut out for us. I don't care if we have to use every private detective in the city. I want the name of Norma Hazelwood's lover by 10 o'clock Monday morning. Yeah?
We've got our boy. Yeah, his name's William Harper. He lives in the Palisades, 1545 Fresh Wind Circle.
Good. Nail him with a subpoena.
You got it.
Mr. Nichols?
Yeah?
I just got this.
Oh, Mr. William Harper.
I would like to know why I'm being subpoenaed.
Well, we want to ask you a few questions in court about you and Norma Hazelwood.
Well, I know my rights, Mr. Nichols. You can't make me incriminate myself. You can't force me to testify that I was committing adultery.
We're not really interested in that aspect of your activities. We're simply going to ask you whether Mrs. Hazelwood was with you the night her husband died.
You know what that'll do to me, to my situation at home?
Yes, Mr. Harper, I have a pretty good idea.
No, you don't. I have two kids, two high school-age kids. They worship me. Now, I'm asking you, Mr. Nichols, I'm begging you to give me a break. I don't care what you think of me. I'm bad, I'm immoral, whatever you want to call it. Why do you have to drag this thing out into the open? It'll destroy my kids.
Sorry about your children, Mr. Harper. But I happen to have a client on trial for murder. She's just a child herself.
All right, then I'll get sick. You can't drag me into court out of a sick bed.
You know, Mr. Harper, I get bad vibes from you. I get the feeling you're hiding something a lot more serious than infidelity. Which leaves me with a very simple option. I'm either going to pry it out of you or put you in jail for perjury. Now, if you'll excuse me, I haven't had my dinner.
Okay.
Okay, what, Mr. Harper?
I don't know where to start. I like Norma. We're very close. But there's something terrible going on here.
Terrible?
Something really all wrong.
Mrs. Hazelwood, you testified last Friday that on the night your husband died, you returned home at exactly 11 o'clock.
Yes.
You also testified that prior to that, you'd been with a male companion.
Yes.
Now, please think carefully and take your time before answering my next question. Isn't it true that after your rendezvous, you returned home much earlier than you originally stated? Not 11 o'clock, but well before 10:30. Would you like me to repeat the question?
No. What you said is true.
And later, the following day, you phoned your companion of the previous evening
Yes.
to ask him, should he ever be questioned, to state that you had left him at 10:45, or a full 40 minutes later than your actual time of departure.
Let the record show that the witness answered affirmatively.
Why did you do that, Mrs. Hazelwood?
Because when I came home and found my husband dead, and Lauren sitting there, and she told me.
Told you? You testified earlier that she didn't speak, couldn't, until Lieutenant Hewitt arrived.
No. She told me. She said she killed her father.
And that took 40 minutes.
No. But I didn't want the police to know about Lauren. I wanted them to think that Martin was killed by a prowler. That's what I asked Lauren to say. I begged her. Later, when the police finally came, how could I tell them I waited 40 minutes before I decided to call?
Mrs. Hazelwood, you've done a great deal of lying in the course of this case. You've lied to the police, you've lied to the deputy district attorney, and you've lied to me. Can you give us any reason why we should now believe this latest version of your story?
Objection?
Sustained.
No more questions.
Just a minute. Shall I tell you what you've accomplished so far, besides the embarrassment and humiliation? All you've done is force me to admit that Lauren said she killed her father.
That was already a matter of record before you testified.
Mrs. Hazelwood, this is hardly the place.
I want an explanation.
Mrs. Hazelwood, we owe you an apology because what we've done is neglected to tell you our strategy. You see, so far, nobody's been able to come up with Lauren's motive, and that's a fact we have to use by making the jury wonder if, without a motive, she really killed her father at all. Also, and just as important, they have to know that someone else was in the house that night who did possibly have a reason for wanting your husband dead.
This is incredible.
You have a lover. You wanted a divorce. Your husband wouldn't give you one.
And you concealed the fact that you were home for 40 minutes before you decided to call the police.
You're dismissed. Both of you.
Sorry, we're representing Lauren. She's 18, and that decision's up to her.
I'm the one who's paying you. You won't get a nickel from me.
Then we'll handle her defense for nothing.
There's one thing you have to think about, Mrs. Hazelwood. The way things stand right now, if you try to talk Lauren into dismissing us, it would only strengthen our position with her.
Your Honor, the prosecution calls as its last witness Mr. David Sherman.
Who was he?
Boy I used to date.
Can this young man say anything that will jeopardize our case?
I don't know.
Please state your name.
David R. Sherman.
Be seated.
Now, Mr. Sherman, do you know the defendant in this case?
Yes, sir. Lauren Hazelwood.
Were you at one time engaged to marry Miss Hazelwood?
Yes, when Lauren was 17 and a half, I asked her to marry me.
What happened?
Her father said we had to wait.
How long?
Well, he didn't set any specific time. But he did mention that she wasn't even 18, so I said, all right, Mr. Hazelwood, I'll marry Lauren when she turns 18.
What was his response?
He was very vague about it. Then, a few weeks before Lauren's birthday, he called me and he said he wanted to see me. When I got there, he said he was against Lauren and me ever getting married.
Did he give you any reason?
He kept harping on the fact that I was a high school dropout.
Would you kindly tell the court why you dropped out?
Yes, I left school because my father died. I wanted to go to work to help my mother. I have 4 younger brothers and sisters.
Then you didn't drop out because of any trouble or any lack of scholastic success?
No, I like school. I got good grades. I was president of my junior class.
All right, David. Now, please tell us about the job that you took.
I took a job at Lyons Camera Shop in Santa Monica.
What were your duties and responsibilities?
When I started?
Yes.
It was very general. Cleanup, errands, stockroom, pretty much learning the business.
And when Mr. Hazelwood told you positively that you couldn't marry Lauren, what was your job then?
I was working full-time as a clerk. And I was also taking a correspondence course to finish high school.
Did you tell Mr. Hazelwood this?
Yes, I did. And I also told him that I intended to go to junior college.
What was his reaction?
He really didn't seem to care. He said the only reason he phoned me was to tell me that he didn't want me to date Lauren anymore.
How did Lauren feel about her father's decision?
She was very upset.
Angry at her father?
Yes, but she respected him enough to do what he said.
How long ago was this?
Almost a year.
Have you seen her since?
Yes, I saw her the day before her father died. I bumped into her at the supermarket.
Did you talk to her?
Yes, I did. She said she was dating several other guys, but that she was still in love with me. She said she didn't care what her father thought, and she wanted to start going out again.
What did you tell her?
I told her I had met someone else and I was getting married.
Thank you, David. No further questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Nichols, you care to cross-examine?
Is all that true?
Yes.
No questions, Your Honor.
You're excused, Mr. Sherman. Mr. Wahlberg?
The people rest, Your Honor.
You may proceed, Mr. Nichols.
The defense would like to request a recess until tomorrow morning. At that time, we'll be ready to begin our presentation.
Very well. Court will adjourn until 10 a.m. tomorrow morning.
Lauren, do you realize what that boy just did? He just lost our case.
He gave the prosecutor his motive. That's all he needs for a conviction.
Young lady, you'd better look deep into your soul tonight, because time just ran out. And unless you can find it within yourself to start telling the truth, there's nothing either one of us can do for you.
hope you've done some serious thinking.
Mr. Nichols?
The only thing I want to hear from you is why you killed your father.
I don't know.
Listen, do you realize that we have lost this case? They have got their motive now.
That's ridiculous. I didn't kill my father over David.
How do you know? If you don't know why you killed him, how do you know that it had nothing to do with David?
I want to be left alone.
Oh, sure, you want to be left alone. Why? You want to die in peace? We've still got the gas chamber in this state. They haven't used it lately, but that doesn't mean that they won't.
You're just trying to scare me into saying something that I don't know.
I'm trying to save your life, and to do that, I'm going to put you on that stand and make you tell the truth.
No! I don't have to go on the stand unless I want to.
Try refusing, and you'll force me to take the only way that's left. Now, if you think Brian was rough on your mother, just wait till you hear my summation. Jury already knows she's a liar. She lied all over the place. Then we'll throw in adultery. I'd say that in 30 seconds, and at most a minute, I'll be able to convince him that she's capable of murder.
What are you talking about?
You're a bright girl. Now think about those 40 minutes that your mother tried to hide. 40 minutes that she could have spent persuading you to take the blame. I'll stand in front of that jury and gently but firmly impress on their minds that it was the mother who murdered her husband and persuaded her own daughter to take the blame.
No, that isn't true.
We're not talking about truth. We're talking about the choice that I'm giving you. Either you get on that stand and tell what happened and why, or I'll destroy your mother. I promise you I'll make her look like the worst monster that ever lived. Lauren, I'm only going to ask you a few questions, but I want you to answer each one of them with absolute honesty. Did you, on the night of October 20th, kill your father by striking him with a brass candlestick?
Yes.
You recall doing that?
Yes.
All right, tell me why. I'm waiting, Lauren. You're under oath, and I want the answer. Why, Lauren? Why did you kill your father?
I don't know.
Yes, you do.
Objection. The witness already answered that question, Your Honor. She said she didn't know.
Your Honor, I believe she does. She's on trial for murder, and I must have enough latitude to give her the representation that she's entitled to.
You may proceed, Mr. Nichols.
All right, Lauren, I'm waiting for your answer.
I told you. I don't know.
And I told you when I put you on the stand this morning that I wanted the truth.
Please, believe me.
I can't, Lauren, because you're lying to this court and you're lying to yourself.
No, I'm not.
You know why you killed your father?
I don't.
You know how you did it, when you did it, and why. So now you tell me, Lauren.
No.
Say it.
I can't.
Isn't it true that you killed your father because he tried to attack you sexually? Answer me, Lauren.
Miss Hazelwood, you're not a child. You're an adult. And as Mr. Nichols just pointed out, you're on trial for murder. Now, you've been asked a question, and I want to hear the answer.
Lauren, listen to me. Listen to me. All you have to do is say yes or no. Isn't it true that on the night of October 20th, in a moment of shock and anguish, you struck your father because he tried to attack you sexually? Lauren, isn't it true that on the night of October 20th, in a moment of shock and anguish, you struck your father because he tried to attack you sexually? Lauren, isn't it true that on the night...
Yes! Yes! Yes!
Your Honor, I'd like to ask for a recess so that we can further develop this new information and include it properly in the defense case. I'd also like to ask the court to grant the immediate bail for the defendant for the remainder of the trial.
Mr. Wahlberg?
I wouldn't object to that at all, Your Honor.
Very well, Mr. Nichols. The court will recess for 1 week, and the defendant will be released on bail to the custody of her mother.
Don't. I'm sorry, Mr. Nichols.
No. You go home now and have your mother take care of you. And when you're feeling better, we'll talk as long as you like, right?
Thank you.
Yeah, Walt, if you told me last night you were going to do this, I'd have locked you in the nearest closet.
Well, Walt, that was an extraordinary guess you made. It was a guess, wasn't it?
Yes, but it wasn't really that extraordinary, especially when you consider the fact that incest is 10 times as common as police blotter show.
I can't tell you this officially until I talked it over with my boss, but I feel that under the circumstances, there's a strong chance that the charges against your client will be dropped.
Thanks. You know, I've always felt that beneath that pinstripe vest, there beats a heart of a really good attorney for the defense.
Precedent? What about Barbara versus Page? Berger versus California, Gardner versus California, Griffith versus Illinois? You call that weak?
You've got quantity, Brian, but you ain't got quality. I think you're approaching this whole thing from the wrong end.
And I happen to think you're wrong.
I haven't been wrong since I enlisted in the Spanish-American War.
I always know when I've got you because you always start getting facetious. Now, come on.
Hey, Walt.
Listen.
Oh, I'm sorry. You guys busy?
Well, yeah, as a matter of fact, we were busy disagreeing over the Walker case. Maybe you can break the tie.
Wait, I got something to tell you. Sit down.
What is it?
Well, I got some... Oh, what a great day.
Well, I got some good news and I got some bad news. Which would you like first?
Well, I don't know about your brother here, but I always like to hear the good news first.
All right. Well, the good news is that really there isn't any bad news. And the reason there isn't any bad news, I'm getting married.
Hallelujah.
Oh, boy, some wedding. No advance notice, no striped trousers, no engraved invitations for a proper church wedding.
That's right. No flower girls, no phony speeches, no witty telegrams.
So why don't you go down to City Hall and get married? Or better still, go to San Pedro, hire a boat, have the captain marry, and get in some fishing while you're at it.
Brian, could we have a moratorium on the bad jokes? Just produce the ring when you're supposed to, and then you can split.
Okay, but have you read the new traffic regulations lately? You know, when a 30-mile zone, you're supposed to go 30, not 40, okay?
You're an officer of the court. Why don't you give me a ticket?
Neil, I'll let you in on a little secret. I'd trade you my great singles apartment with all the goodies that go with it to be in your spot right now. Racing through the streets, breakneck speeds. Hello, Rachel.
Good morning, Brian. This is Lisa's family. Mr. Lambert, Uncle Charlie,
How do you do?
Reverend
Brian,
Gilbert.
how do you do? Reverend, how do you do?
Where's Lisa?
We were hoping she was with you.
Wasn't she supposed to stay here last night?
Mm-hmm. She left early this morning. Our neighbor saw her. He said it was around 7 o'clock. And she left the dress and the shoes we'd selected for the ceremony.
Neil, we're very worried. I was hoping that... we were just trying to get you, hoping she might be over at your place.
Did you try a studio?
All morning, no answer.
Excuse me.
Hello?
Hello, Mrs. Allen. This is Neil Darrell. Is Miss Lambert there?
No, sir. I just came in. She's not here.
Well, did she leave a note for you or anything?
I don't see anything. Wasn't she supposed to?
That's all right. Thank you, Mrs. Allen. Lenny, Neil.
Neil, hi.
Is Lisa there?
Oh, come on, old buddy. You're not going to get hung up at this late date about the fact that Lisa and I were
Friends once.
Lenny, I'm not getting hung up about anything. I'm just trying to get in touch with her. I thought she might be in touch with you. I'm trying to find her.
No, I haven't seen Lisa in about a couple of months.
What, you try a studio?
Yeah, she's not there.
Where are you?
Well, I'm at the Lambert home.
We're supposed to be married today.
You're kidding.
Look, Lenny, I'm worried.
Oh, yeah, now you got me worried.
Lenny, I'll talk to you
Hey, thanks. I guess it's the police now.
rescue got a call from somebody who wouldn't identify themselves. Said that there was a car parked just outside the front gate of the Hilldale Memorial Cemetery with a woman slumped over the wheel. That note was on the seat beside her. The label on this container says Seconal. She must have known the right amount to take so she couldn't be revived. With too few or too many, sometimes there is a chance. Any idea why she did it? She wasn't on the stuff, was she? Had you quarreled? Okay. Won't need you anymore, Neil. We will need that note. We're satisfied that it is suicide. But you understand there'll still have to be an autopsy and an inquest.
Don't you think I know that?
Beautiful girl. It's a rotten shame. Go get drunk. Hit somebody. Me, if you like.
Well, what do you think?
It's very nice.
Very nice. Honey, the brochure said it was magnificent. I mean, you could work up a little bit more enthusiasm than that.
Well, I'm just trying to visualize it with all your things in it.
Well, I'm just taking my leather chair, and that's going to go in the den with books and stereo, and the rest is your department.
Oh, no. Now, you know my passion for junk. I wouldn't dare with your place.
Oh, no. Our place.
Our place?
Well, sure, right. This is where we're going to live after we're married. Well, why the stricken look? No, I know what it is. It's the studio, right? Well, you don't have to give up the studio unless you want to, right?
The look you just observed is not stricken. I think the word is astonished.
Does it really surprise you, Lisa?
Well, it is the first time you've mentioned it.
Wrong. I've been talking about it for weeks. In sign language. Don't you want to get married?
I just don't want to lose what we have now.
I don't plan on losing anything. I'm not asking you to give up your identity or your job or your personal subscription to the Sunday New York Times. I'm just asking for one small concession. Mr. and Mrs. Neil Darrell on the mailbox, that's all.
When did you come to this heavy decision for us?
Well, it was the people against Rayford Anderson. I was going over the transcript, and I read where the little boy saw his father pick up an empty beer bottle and bring it down over his mother's head. And that's when it came to me. Lisa and I are going to get married.
All right. though you're wondering if you're at the right party. Can I help you? I'm Lisa Lambert.
Oh, yes. I met you a couple of months ago. Well, not really. It was at a reunion lunch with Lenny. You're all he talked about for hours.
You're Neil Darrow. Oh, I met you before that. Lenny used to tell me all about your little capers at Berkeley in infinite detail. Did you bring somebody?
No.
Come on, I'll introduce you around.
Later. They're pretty much into the music. It wouldn't register.
They're good, aren't they? Oh, it doesn't turn you on. Rock, I mean.
Oh, no, I like it. It's just that I'm not addicted to it. Well, I hope I'm not going to be crossed off your list. I'd rather listen to Mozart.
You won't, but since you can't be here tonight, why don't we go in the kitchen and you can help me fix the fondue?
Oh, I'll fix it all right if you let me anywhere near it. You may be sorry.
Oh, no. You can cut the bread chunks. That won't put too much of a strain on you.
All right.
Come on. Lenny tells me you're an attorney.
Right.
He says you're good. You prepare like Louis Nizer and have a courtroom manner like Clarence Darrow.
And I play tennis like Gonzalez with a racket.
Well, that's your work, though. Keeping people out of cages.
I trust you.
I could love you for a try.
I could let you. If you weren't Lenny's girl, I mean.
In that cupboard is some Worcestershire. Could we just...
You don't like cages, do you?
No, not even for birds.
Tell me, do you have a good idea for a workable substitute for murderers and pushers and child molesters? It occupies a lot of my thoughts, and I would love to win a Nobel Prize for the answer. Seriously.
I never have answers. Only questions. And they're usually very slanted and biased and emotional and confused, I've been told.
By whom?
Lots of people, and they're right. The world doesn't need emoters and bleeders. It needs people with strong minds that have the capacity to make ruthless decisions that can get things done.
Right. I could love you for not being one of those people. Always remembering, of course, that you're Lenny's girl.
You haven't had lunch with Lenny recently, have you?
No, why?
Well, if you had, he might have told you that I'm not his girl anymore. Oh, but I still get to go to all the parties, and I even get to make the fondue sometime.
Oh, you made the fondue. Listen, why don't we take a ride to the beach and get out of this place? I understand that you can see the sky, and there may even be a moon.
All right. But I think I should warn you that I'm aggressively avoiding any involvements these days.
That's a warning? Lenny tells me you're even better at decorating people's homes than you are at making fondue.
Well, I guess more than half my clients are satisfied.
And the rest have questionable taste, huh? What do you enjoy doing? I mean, when you're not decorating interiors.
Well, it's a long list. I guess my current mania is painting. It'd be my work if Picasso and the rest will just move over.
Yeah, I used to say the same thing about Sugar Ray Robinson. And George Bernard Shaw. And Miles Davis and Albert Einstein.
But I bet all your clients are glad that none of them moved over.
Well, only the satisfied ones. And in my business, if a client isn't satisfied, he goes directly to jail.
You love your work, don't you?
It has its moments and its reward. Listen, if you like, you can come down to court and I'll let you watch sometime.
I'd really like that.
I gotta warn you, it can get very dull, but it can be exciting from time to time.
Well, I would think when you're fighting for someone's freedom or their life, that it would be very exciting.
Well, when they come in with a decision that you know in your gut is wrong, it can tear you up, but, well, it's never dull for me. Tell me about you and Lenny. What broke you up?
Oh, I'm not really sure. I liked Lenny because he was fun. He's very bright, as you know. But he's uninvolved. Heaven knows I run like a thief myself when the talk turns to politics or the country's economy or anything like that. But I found I wanted my great and good friend to know that our president is not Martin Van Buren. Lenny decided he was serious about me. Us. He said that he was tired of fooling around with his life, and he wanted to get married. So I went into shock. I don't know. I could not tell him that it had stopped being good for me. Because he wasn't a serious person. He turned into a serious person right before my very eyes. But it was too late by then, so... I don't know. Lenny was very nice and kind about the whole thing, and he said I'd probably saved us both from disaster. That's about it. Any questions?
Yeah. How do you feel about a hamburger? Nice place.
Thank you. It's sort of a mess, but it's all right.
No involvement. Cool. Good night.
Good night.
Oh my God, Lisa. I just can't make contact with it. I keep thinking about where we should eat dinner tonight, or about calling her up to go take a look at a sofa I saw in a department store window. You remember? You asked me why I pressured her into getting married. Well, she fought me on it. Maybe it got to be too much, and she just finally...
No, that was no reason for a girl like Lisa to kill herself. She had a mind of her own.
Why? Why? I guess you two will have to take over for me because I can't accept this. I've got to find out. There's got to be a reason. There's got to be a specific reason.
Well, we're up on everything that you've got on the calendar. Take as much time as you want.
Hey, just find someone who knew her well enough to help me.
That's right. After all, you didn't know her very long.
Maybe I really didn't know her at all. What happened between you and Lisa?
Oh, didn't she tell you?
Yes, she told me. I want your version.
Wait a minute, Neil. That's pretty embarrassing.
Now, don't jazz me! Now, we're talking about a girl we both loved. I think we both loved her. Did you, Lenny?
Hey, now, wait a minute. What am I, under cross-examination here? Oh. All right, yeah. Yeah, I suppose I loved her. At least I thought I did. Hey, listen, she was a very, very exciting girl. You know that. And she was a perfect partner in every way.
In every way?
Yes, Neil, in every way.
Did you ever propose marriage to her?
As a matter of fact, I did.
What happened?
She turned me down.
That's all?
That's all. She wouldn't have me. She wanted somebody who was more, actively involved with world problems.
Don't get snide with me, Lenny.
I'm not getting snide with you, Neil. I'm just being truthful. After all, it's not pleasant to have to admit that I was turned down by the only girl who I ever proposed marriage to.
Did you ever pressure her in any way?
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose I tried to persuade her. After all, my ego was bruised. I don't take things that lightly.
What was her...
Oh, would you let go, Counsel? Will you let go? I cared for the girl. I'm just as upset as you are, but I don't see how this is going to help us going over and over and over again.
Mr. Lambert, I'd like to talk to you for a bit if you feel up to it.
What is there to talk about now?
Well, sir, there's a big why, and I thought maybe we could help each other find the answer.
Strange. Because I thought maybe you could tell me why. Because I don't have a clue. If I would take you to visit our neighbors and our friends, everybody and anybody who knew Lisa, they wouldn't have a clue. They'd just tell you that she was the last person on Earth who would take her life.
The note she left doesn't mean anything to you.
What is it?
The note, stalemate. What does it mean?
Stalemate? Well, in chess, when a player has lost the game, he tries to get his king into a position to force a draw. In stalemate, you don't win, but you don't lose either.
I was wondering if it had any special meaning for Lisa.
Not so far as I know. I wonder, Neil, if you've searched your relationship with Lisa for some reason.
I've done nothing else, sir.
You know, sometimes people block out something that...
No, Dad, really. You're using your grief as a bludgeon to hit Neil over the head with. He's grieving just like we are.
I'm sorry, Neil. I guess I'm just entirely too self-absorbed at the moment. I think maybe I ought to try to get some sleep.
Rachel, tell me about your family. I'm afraid Lisa and I never really got around to it.
I guess we weren't what you would call average. Mom gave up a promising career as a pediatrician when she married Dad. If she ever had second thoughts about it, we'd never heard them. She was there when we needed her. Didn't hang on when it was time for us to cut loose. Thank you. We both adored her. She was so beautiful. She was 46 when she died.
What was Lisa like as a child?
Well, you won't find any light in that direction. If everyone was as neurotic as Lisa, all the psychiatrists would be on welfare. She was outgoing, fun-loving. She had Mom's vitality and Dad's curiosity and a passion for living that, well, I guess she got from both of them. Lisa was the most alive person I ever knew. I guess that's why everyone was in such a state of shock. I mean, Lisa's the last person in the world who would ever kill herself.
Neil, I love you.
When did you find out?
Just now. You look so beautiful in the yellow light. You look like an old Roman coin.
Would you like to collect me?
What?
Paint me, maybe?
Neil, I just told you I love you. What are you going to do? Stand there and throw rocks at me?
No. I'm going to take you home. Call you about 9 in the morning and ask you to repeat what you just said.
May I ask why?
Because I want to make sure it's not 2 martinis and a half bottle of Riesling that said it.
Don't you believe in old sayings, my dear? In vino veritas? That's Seneca.
Oh, that's good.
Did you like it?
Glad it's not money.
Why are you being so nasty? You're gonna make me cry.
Lisa,
What?
remember one of the first things you said to me?
What?
You said you could love me. Just because I try to keep people out of cages, remember that?
Oh, well, can't that be part of it?
You also said that you weren't ready for any new involvement.
I know, but that was then. That was then.
Yeah, but that was all of 2 weeks ago.
What do you do, carry a stopwatch?
No? Lisa, you're not the first pretty girl I've ever met.
I know that.
You just happen to be the first girl I've ever fallen in love with. And I have great admiration for Lenny. I even like him, sort of. But I don't ever want to find him sitting on my bedpost at 3 in the morning.
You fool. Don't you know me yet?
Not really. I only know how I feel about you. And if there's ever going to be anything between us, it's got to be all the way.
Please don't make any conditions. Just love me back. I'll swear to one thing.
What's that?
That whatever Lenny and I had, it's finished. Finished. Finished.
Finished.
Finished. Neil, I don't think you should marry me.
Oh. The deal was that you were going to marry me, remember?
Look, will you please be serious,
Oh,
Neil?
I'm being serious. You made a verbal contract, and I am a credible witness. You're stuck.
Will you just listen for 1 minute? Neil, I do unpredictable things.
Well, I'll do them with you.
Well, it just frightens me to ever think that I could ever interfere with your work.
Man does not live by work alone. Lisa. I don't know what it's going to be like living with you for keeps. But I got a pretty good idea what it would be like living without you now. It would be like being exiled to Pittsburgh with only one suitcase filled with Liberace records.
You nut. Look, can I use up my ration of corn for the week?
Be my guest.
You'll never know how much I love you. Now, we've only known each other for 7 weeks. If we were to break up now, you'd get over it.
Maybe so. But I wouldn't get my deposit back on the apartment. Oh, come on, Lisa. What are we doing? What kind of a conversation is this for two people who just got engaged, huh?
Oh, is that what we've done?
Mm-hmm. We have plighted our troth. What do you think the champagne's for?
Engaged.
Such an old-fashioned word. It conjures up cut glass and husking bees.
It's a good word, Lisa. Think about it. Engaged. Committed. To make someone happy. To love and protect. And maybe you're right. Maybe we better call it off. All I'm trying to say is, I love you. And I'm scared, too. Now, why don't we talk about something else? Let's talk about some more food. What else do we have to eat?
Oh, what do we have? How about a mushroom omelet in the morning? Oh, we can eat this after this.
Well, did they tell you your rights? All right, let me talk to the officer. It's Lenny Harmon. They picked him up. Yes, officer. Bailey. Well, business is good, huh? What else did he do? All right, listen, I'll be down in half an hour with bail. See if you can get the sergeant to release him in my custody. Right, thanks.
Lenny Harmon, what's his problem?
Drunk driving and resisting arrest.
Well, back to the old grind, huh? It's not much, but it's a start. You need anything?
No, thanks. I can handle it.
You went on a real bender, Lenny. Why?
Why not? It's a recognized American institution, isn't it?
You were putting away pretty good the other day, too. What's your problem?
What's your problem, Neil? That's my problem. I really cared for that girl. I can still see her slumping over that wheel.
What did you say? What do you mean you keep seeing her slumped over the wheel? Come on, Lenny! What do you mean?
I saw her. I saw her the day you called me. Wednesday you were supposed to get married. I don't know. I had a hunch. I just drove up to Hillsdale.
It was you who called rescue.
Yeah.
And you didn't tell me. I asked you why you didn't tell me, Lenny!
Man, listen, I got a lot to tell you. I lied to you before. No, I didn't lie to you. I just didn't tell you all of it, that's all. I just got loaded.
Tell me now, Lenny. Tell me now.
I just don't act like a cop, huh? I mean, like I've had that all day. I proposed to her. And she turned me down. Well, I just couldn't accept that. So I persuaded her. And, she said that she had some work she had to clean up at her studio, and we put it off for a couple of days. I said, okay, fine. I'd pick you up on Saturday, following Saturday. And I figured we'd drive up to Las Vegas and get married in one of those little instant weddings.
Sit down. Now, what happened?
What happened? Well, let me see. I went up to her studio, and her housekeeper said she's gone. She was gone for a half hour. She went away about a half hour earlier. So I don't know. I drove up to Hilldale. I don't know why. I just did.
Is that where you found her?
Yeah, that's where I found her. She was parked by the gate, like this last time. It was that same second old bit. I took her to emergency hospital, and they pumped out her stomach. And when she came around, I said, Lisa, what a crazy thing to do. What did you do that for? And she said that she didn't know, and she was confused and apologetic, and she said that it was too much for her, and she couldn't marry me. Well, she had a big thing about keeping it quiet, Neil. So I talked to some people, and I managed it for her. I kept it quiet.
Did it ever occur to you that if you told somebody, she might still be alive?
It occurred to me. Did it ever occur to me? Do you know I haven't been the same since that happened? I haven't slept. I haven't. Look at my hand. I haven't eaten. I haven't.
And why, Lenny? Why didn't you tell somebody?
She made me swear. She made me swear not to tell anybody, so I didn't tell anybody. It would have been a betrayal if I told anybody.
That's where you found her right now. Called, rescued. Didn't leave your name.
That was the second time. I guess I panicked. I waited there for the ambulance, and it was just a couple of minutes. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Save your apologies, Lenny. Stay with the sauce. Plead you guilty of drunk driving. First offense. Maybe they'll let you off with a fine.
She was so gorgeous. She had so much to live for. I don't understand.
Hey, Lenny, let's make a deal, huh? Let's do our mourning for Lisa separately, okay?
Neil, wait a minute. There's something here you want to see. She left a note then, too. The first time. I don't know what it means. I don't even know why I kept it. What was in her mind, Neil? I mean, I know that's a chess term, but I don't play chess, so, does it have a special meaning?
Yes, it does. Something to do with not losing. Forcing the game of a draw.
Isn't this the note that she
No,
left?
Rachel. It's one Lenny Harmon gave me.
Lenny Harmon? I mean, where did he get it?
Rachel, I think your father ought to know about this, too.
Neil.
Mr. Lambert?
You have something you want to say to me. You have that look about you.
Mr. Lambert, I've come because I don't know, maybe purely selfish reasons. But I don't think so. I need to share this with you, and I think you need to know as much as I do.
Need to know what?
Well, sir, I did what you suggested. I went back over my relationship with Lisa. And I can say with absolute certainty that what Lisa did had nothing to do with me.
How do you know that?
Because Lisa tried to kill herself once before.
Oh, Neil, that's absurd. Where'd you hear that?
Rachel, at one time, she and Lenny Harmon were to be married. And she disappeared then, too, only he found her in time. The same place outside of Hilldale. And she'd written the same note.
How could he keep something like that to himself?
Lisa made him promise to keep it quiet, and he kept that promise as long as he could.
Neil, I'm so very sorry.
Does any of this tell you anything?
No, I'm afraid it doesn't. It's just as much of a puzzle as it ever was. Neil, I hope that you'll want to come to see us often. After all, we do have a bond in common. We all loved her.
Yes, we did. Goodbye, Mr. Lambert.
Where are you going now?
To my office, back to work. That's a prescription I got from your doctor.
It's Dr. Venner. He dearly loves a bromide. Maybe he's right, huh? Maybe work is our only salvation.
I'm not ready for the rides at Disneyland yet. I do feel better, Rachel. Goodbye.
Dearest Rachel, dying slowly has one reward. We at last see life as it really is. Please tell no one but Lisa what I am saying now out of my agony. I deeply despise my life for what I did to my daughters. I let you believe in the role men assign to women, the stalemate role of marriage. I must see you and Lisa once more before I die. I want to know that you understand.
Well, Mother, Lisa bought it all. Are you happy now?